Yo, what's up? I'm KallaTheYapper, and I'm back with another reaction to a Nigerian perspective video. This time, the video is about how Rover solved what every other Gacha protagonist got wrong. I cannot wait to see what the hell this is going to be about. The reason I say this is because the last two videos, or last three, actually, let me double check. Just on my phone. Give me a moment. Let me double check just to be sure. What was it? One, two, three. The last three videos he did regarded to why Withering Waves is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Basically, to sum it up for you all, it's been flop after flop after flop, making claims that are trying to make claims like it's exclusive to Withering Waves when it's not. When the claim itself literally extends to every other gacha game in the gacha space. Shoot, not even in just gacha games, but outside of gacha games as well. From story plot points to how people design NPCs in their games to what's another one? What was another one he did? To even him, I guess, trying to like water down and like hand wave the complaints people have made about Withering Waves story based on a theory that people have about what's going to happen in version 3.2 with Chisa's character or some shit, right? So, basically, it's been flop after flop after flop for every video I've reacted to from 7 days ago all the way to now. So, my expectation is pretty high in terms of what nonsense is going to be said here. I have a low expectation that this is going to be something that is genuine. That's a genuine factual statement that cannot be applied to other games. And it's special about Wuwa. My expectation is low in that regard. But anyway, let's get the reaction started.
The Genshin Impact anime is finally around the corner. I mean, we've been waiting for this anime for the better part of 2 to 3 years. And very recently, we got an announcement that this anime is well into production, which to be honest, is phenomenal news. I mean, I would love to believe that regardless of where you stand in the gacha debate, whether it's on the Genshin versus Withering Waves debate or any other...
Genshin's anime has nothing to do with Genshin versus Wuwa debate. Let's be fucking for real. Anyone who's bringing it to that conversation like it matters, they're doing it on purpose. It has nothing to do with the gacha of the Genshin versus Wuwa shit at all. It's only, that whole thing is only about Genshin. That's all that is.
I would love to believe that regardless of where you stand in the gacha debate, whether it's on the Genshin versus Withering Waves debate or any other arguments people like to have, the Genshin Impact anime is something that should be a source of hype for everyone in the entire space. But on hearing the news of this anime, one very important question immediately popped into my head. A question that I believe is incredibly important to ask, especially if we really want to understand just how hyped we should be. Not only for the Genshin Impact anime or any other gacha adaptation, but even for the games themselves. And that question is simple. How interesting are the protagonists of our favorite gacha games right now?
They're very interesting. Granted, if I had to put them on a scale, who I find more interesting, Genshin's Traveler is on top for me. Second best, or two people who share the same slot, would be Trailblazer and the Administrator, or End Administrator. And then finally, I would put Rover's MC at the bottom of that entire list. Sorry, it's just how I feel about it.
Now. And this is a very important question, not just because the protagonist is the character that we as the audience follow throughout the story, and therefore should ideally be the most interesting character in the entire show, but also because gacha as a genre has a notorious problem when it comes to how interesting, or put more clearly, how uninteresting their protagonists generally are. So with Genshin Impact developing an anime, Withering Waves delivering some of its most hyped stories recently, from the Ameth story to the Luke story, and even going into Arc Knights and what we've been seeing from the protagonists there, has there actually been a step up in gacha protagonists, or are we still facing the exact problem that...
Yes, we have. There is a step up. The step up didn't even start with Genshin. The step up didn't even start with Withering Waves as well. You know what a step up really happened? Or at least from my perspective, where it really happened? The main character of Fate Grand Order. About 2 to 3 or probably 4 years ago, I was knee deep drowning in Fate content. I found out a little bit more about Retsuka, the main character of Fate Grand Order. This dude is literally bottom of the barrel type mage. Literally, bottom of the barrel type mage. I don't think this nigga even comes from a well-known mage family. I think he just like random mage got off the street so that Chaldea can have a whole bunch of mages to like save humanity from incineration. This dude truly had no grasp of idea what the fuck he was getting into. Granted, I can't speak about the game as a whole. I can only speak about the little bit that I do remember from the anime. But what I did find from like at least the movie that they released, which was like the climax of the entire main story content for Fate Grand Order, is that this nigga has such a crazy glow up from not like knowing or understanding what the fuck he's truly getting into to like him having like these one-off, these not one-off, but like these multiple character level conversations or character important conversations he had with servants he came across from multiple lost belts across the entire story, like talking about, yo, why is it that humanity exists? What's the purpose of humanity's journey? Oh, why is it that we are the way that we are? This, that, and the third, so that he can have a resolve for the reason why he's doing what he's doing. Up to the point where we got to the end of the main story content, where you like go to like the Tower of Time, the Temple of Time, something like that, right? Literally, spoilers for anyone who doesn't know this, Mash got clapped, right? In the Lost Belt, or in the area. She got smoked, right? He picked up her shield, started summoning servants. This nigga was running in full speed. Then he had a 1v1 boxing match with Arshgoesha, literally the head of all the freaking beast class servants. I forgot what they called their group, but they the demonic beasts, right? He was literally the head of the whole group. He led the group. Had a 1v1 boxing match with the nigga. And guess who came out on top? It was Ritsuka. Bare knuckle boxing the entire time. His body, his diaphragm, out of whack. That nigga went from plain self-insert MC to interesting character with interesting development and execution of said development. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that clear now before we even get into this.
That we've come to associate with gacha games. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So if you're interested in this kind of content, make sure to like the video and tell me your thoughts on gacha protagonists in general. Right now, who is your favorite protagonist in any gacha game? Why are they your favorites? What do they have that other protagonists don't? Tell me that and more in the comments below, and of course don't forget to subscribe.
Majority of that is family. Literal family relationships. That's what the majority of them don't have, family relationships. They don't have a brother, they don't have a sister, they don't have a mother, they don't have a father. They're literally no names. But from what I can say from, you know, Genshin and Zenless, they have family members that are directly blood related to them.
You could be interested on any of my future videos. Alright, let's get into it. See, depending on who you ask, there's usually one of two answers that you'll get when it comes to how people feel about the main characters in a gacha game. Because when you think about this, there is actually a lot of nuance within these protagonists. Nuance that, depending on the story and the lore of the game itself, can easily translate to genuine excitement. But as I mentioned before, the general sentiment surrounding main characters in these games is still largely rooted in disinterest. There is this underlying expectation that we shouldn't really expect much from them. They believe that everything else about the game, from its world building to its stories to its systems to its mechanics, so even the other characters, are all supposed to be more interesting than the main character, and in many cases it really does feel that way. And the main push behind this idea, the biggest culprit that made this sentiment so widespread, not just among gacha audiences but even among gacha developers themselves, is Genshin Impact. I mean, we already understand the almost irreversible damage that Genshin Impact has had when it comes to how gacha game protagonists are handled. But in case you're not fully aware, there are really two major things that Genshin Impact has done that have in a lot of ways shaped and arguably hurts how main characters are written and perceived across the entire gacha space.
Really?
The first is the idea of weakness. I mean, yes, we understand that story-wise and lore-wise, the Traveler is extremely strong, perhaps even one of the most powerful characters in the entirety of Genshin Impact. And that sounds incredible until you shift your attention to the in-game Traveler. The Traveler that we actually control, the one that we as...
No, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this now. In-game Traveler is just as strong. Especially if you build them right, they are just as strong. You use them right, they're just as strong. Yes, they are. You know what the two strongest forms of Traveler that exist in the entire game? Or technically three. It's Animo, Pyro, and Dendro. Those three elements, someone can correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but those three elements in particular are the strongest elements that the Traveler has used in the entire game. In terms of like, especially gameplay use when you put him on a team setup. Without a shadow of a doubt. So I don't know where he's trying to go with this, but this is kind of dishonest, knowing that you have to build your characters in the game. It isn't some, the character gets handed to you, and then by default, Traveler is just this piece of shit unit. It's like, no, you can use this unit. Literally free 5-star character that you get to start the whole game.
Incredible until you shift your attention to the in-game traveler, the traveler that we actually control, the one that we as players spend infinitely more time with. Because to the surprise of absolutely no one, the traveler is and has always been ridiculously weak. So much so, in fact, that it has basically become a long-running joke in the community that the traveler should be treated as a 3-star character. And we can already see how this idea of weakness doesn't.
You know why that sparked off? It's because, one, when it came down to Electro Traveler, from what I saw from the community's perception to Electro Traveler wasn't really received that well. At least that's my perception. Then Dendro Traveler came out. Guess what? People were like, oh my god, Dendro Traveler is that nigga. Granted, he was that nigga until like other Dendro units came out. But that didn't mean that he just fell to the wayside, no one used him anymore. No, he is still a great Dendro unit to use. Then what after that? We went to Hydro. Hydro, nosedive downward. Everyone knows that. The way his gameplay was designed, from his elemental skill to his ultimate, literally booty cheek buns. Everyone acknowledges that. People don't like how it was like designed. So much so, the Genshin writers or the devs, what have you, literally have multiple moments where the Traveler is using Hydro and they're shooting laser beams with their water instead of the little bullet shots with their fingers, right? And it's like, okay, if we're doing that, why the hell won't you just change his ult? Update his ultimate, change that shit. Change it from the whole water spiral that moves and doesn't follow the enemy around, right? Change it from that into a one-hit instance of Hydro Burst damage. Just boom, like that. Like a whole bunch of laser beam. You've done it before multiple times throughout the game, throughout like different story moments. Do that. Right? Then we went to Pyro. Guess what? Pyro Traveler went the fuck up. People are like, oh my shit. Pyro Traveler is a demon. Yes. Immaculate. Right? Granted, some people don't know this. Even to this day, even though it's been a year, some people think that Pyro Traveler is only meant to be used for the that boss in Natlan, for the final act of Natlan's Arc Conquest. People think that's the only boss that Traveler is good for, right? Because of what's in his constellations. But you have to unlock the rest of his constellation via increasing your reputation level at all the tribes. Then you go to the captain's, body, where he's sitting down at, and you offer him this Flintstone stuff, where it unlocks the second half of Pyro Traveler's constellations, which literally increases crit damage, his burst, his pyro damage, and all this other shit. Literally, it makes him an even better unit.
Doesn't just affect the traveler themselves, but even influences how main characters in other gacha games are perceived and designed. Take a game like Wooden Ways, for instance. I mean, even though yes, the Rover is a bit more fun to use and noticeably stronger in game, it's still a fact that most players would rather use other characters before they even think of putting the Rover in their main team. Or look at—
I mean, that's just a natural effect of things because we're playing a gacha game. We're playing a team building game. I don't think this is something that's unique to Genshin. I think this is just unique to team building games as a whole, though, right? When you have multiple different characters coming out in a team building game, of course, the main character is going to be slotted out of that team when a unit that does something different, that provides something a little bit better that the main character doesn't provide for the team build, that is a net positive, a benefit, mind you, to the team setup, is like naturally they're going to be pushed out. That's just what happens. Granted, the freemium team option still exists, and that's always a good thing. From Genshin to Star Rail to even Zenless, the freemium team option always is a good thing. So it's even with the main character being replaced in a team setup that like pushes them out, they still exist in another team setup that's not the same team setup but a different one where they still are used. Like the remembrance team for Star Rail, right? Remembrance teams. Guess what? Remembrance MC is still used for those teams. Still used for those teams. and even non-remembrance teams. The Trailblazer is still used for it. I use Trailblazer in my Finon team to buff Finon, because that's literally the role of the Remembrance Trailblazer, is to, help buff the main damage dealer of the team. So again, Star Rail players who subscribe to me, correct me if I'm wrong about some of the information I'm saying. I'm always down to be corrected. Anyway, you get the point.
Like Wooden Wheat, for instance. I mean, even though yes, the Rover is a bit more fun to use and noticeably stronger in game, it's still a fact that most players would rather use other characters before they even think of putting the Rover in their main team.
I will say this: I have Rover in my Arrow Erosion team for KallaTheYapper because I didn't pull for what's her name? Shit. What's that chick's name? Redhead. I forgot what her fucking name is. You know what I'm talking about. The one who can convert Spectral Frazzle into Arrow Erosion. I forgot what her name is. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't have her. I chose not to pull for her when she came out because I tried to get Zanny instead.
It's still a fact that,
granted, she's having a rerun right now, but I just got no, using my pulls to get Lupa for my fusion team. So yeah.
For instance. I mean, even though yes, the Rover is a bit more fun to use and noticeably stronger in game, it's still a fact that most players would rather use other characters before they even think of putting the Rover in their main team. Or look at Arc Knight's Enfield, where yes, right now, because there aren't that many characters available yet, we naturally find ourselves using the Administrator more often. But we also understand and almost expect that as the game continues to expand and more characters get released, even as protagonists might eventually be pushed aside and slowly forgotten in actual gameplay. That is the general—
Wait, I just realized something. He's talking about the meta related to these games and the main character not being used for these meta teams. Is he trying to make the argument? I'm gonna call this now before we even get to that point. Is he trying to make the argument that Withering Wave solved this issue by making the Rover relevant to the meta of certain team setups, like Spectral Frazzle and Arrow Erosion, and then soon to be Fusion? If that's the case, Genshin and Zenless, not Zenless, Genshin and Star Rail have checked these boxes off for these related things. But again, this is what I'm assuming his argument is before we get there.
General idea that has formed that protagonists might and almost expects that as the game continues to expand and more characters get released, even as protagonists might eventually be pushed aside and slowly forgotten in actual gameplay. That is the general idea that has formed around Gacha protagonists. The second and exponentially more detrimental thing that Genshin Impact has pushed with its main character is the silent protagonist trope, especially within the kind of world that Genshin Impact itself represents. A world that has effectively become the blueprint that many other Gacha games now build their own narratives around.
Yeah, but the silent protagonist thing is not unique to Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact didn't, push silent protagonist. Silent protagonist shit has been a thing in Gacha way before Genshin ever came. Again, look the Fate Grand Order. Fate Grand Order, one of the oldest Gacha games in the space by like a decade or by like almost 2 decades. Actually, let me search this up right now on my phone. Hold up. Instead of me yapping, trying to estimate the time period. Give me a second. I know Fate Grand Order is an old game. How old is Fate Grand Order Gacha game? Okay, it's 10 years old. Yeah, it's 10 years old. A decade old. Genshin Impact literally is chasing right behind them. Right? Game been out for 10 years. The main character of that story is silent. In terms of like you playing the game through the story mode, the main character is silent, blatantly. Right? It's not until the anime adaptation for the game does the main character actually have a voice, so that you can feel and see their personality be projected via their voice.
Represents a world that has effectively become the blueprint that many other Gacha games now build their own narratives around. Because not only is this one of the primary causes of disinterest with the Traveler, but a character like the Traveler being silent also has become the one consistent attribute that many other Gacha games have copied for their own main protagonist. It's a design choice that keeps getting repeated across the entire genre. And really, this becomes a serious problem when you place a silent protagonist.
Again, this is not Genshin's fault for doing that. This shit has been a thing before Genshin even came out. Again, Fate Grand Order. Fate Grand Order's main character is silent. That nigga does not speak or he doesn't have any audio for their dialogue, right? So again, if you want to pin the blame on who caused this problem, look to older gacha games that existed before Genshin Impact came out and, you know, showed up and showed out. You don't pin the blame on Genshin Impact for this one specific aspect. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense to do. I understand that Genshin, you know, came up, showed up, and showed out, and like kind of shifted the standard for gacha games, right? I get that, but again, they are not the pioneer of the silent protagonist. They're not that's not them. Games that are not even gacha games have done this. Literally, Link. Did niggas forget that Genshin Impact literally, the devs for Genshin Impact literally admitted that their inspiration for creating Genshin Impact was based off Zelda? Right? The main character of Zelda is literally silent. That nigga doesn't speak. He does grunts. Ka! Hoo! I've never played the game, so I don't know what his grunts sound like, but I'm just giving an example. But again, Genshin didn't create that trope. Non-gacha games created that trope. Genshin Impact just copied what another game did with their main protagonist. It's simple. Also, I'm gonna say this. I had no idea that Link's name wasn't Zelda. I thought Zelda was Link's name, but that Zelda isn't Link's name. Zelda is the name of the princess that's in the game. I didn't even know that for so many years, up until like, I guess, what, 2013, not 2013, my bad, until like 2022, 2023, around there. I was like, oh wow, really? Also, by the way, Zelda is fucking hot. Goodness gracious.
Primary causes of disinterest with the Traveler, but a character like the Traveler being silent also has become the one consistent attribute that many other gacha games have copied for their own main protagonist.
Shut up, let me go back.
Not only is this one of the primary causes of disinterest with the Traveler, but
I will say that is true. The Traveler not speaking at all for so long caused people to be disinterested in the Traveler's character. That I can admit is probably true for a good portion of people. Granted, I know I'm not one of those people, but I know that's true for a good portion of people. Some people in my comment section can admit it right now. Did y'all feel disinterest for the Traveler because they didn't speak like the other playable cast? Right? And of course, this goes into like a valid criticism people have about Genshin Traveler being like, bro, why are we having these one-off moments where the Traveler speaks? Let the Traveler speak more, right? And, you know, they started shifting to do that. But the problem is, I noticed, right? If y'all remember back during version 5, right? From 5.0 all the way throughout the entirety of version 5, honestly, for the most part, right? The Traveler was, not just the Traveler, but a whole bunch of playable characters did not have voices because of the whole voice actor strike, which was legitimate at the start, but then shifted into being becoming, you know, illegitimate to what they were demanding, which resulted in so many voices being missing from characters for such a long period of time. Thank goodness we're not dealing with that anymore, and the Traveler gets to speak more. But like, there's so many moments in the story throughout Natlan where the Traveler does speak using their voice, but the voice isn't there because of the whole voice actor strike shit, right? So honestly, I feel like that also played a role in people's, you know, dissatisfaction for the Traveler even more so, but not just the Traveler, but probably just like towards their satisfaction towards the game as a whole. Because like, man, we spent all this money pulling for characters and whatnot, why am I getting no voices for these characters I'm pulling for? What the fuck going on here? So it extends from dissatisfaction for the Traveler to dissatisfaction for the whole game because of that. Granted, thank goodness Nightcry dropped, you know, making the Traveler, you know, be more audible, let them speak more, because why the fuck would you not let your main character speak anyway? If Zenless Zone Zero can fucking do it, having the proxies talk back and forth between each other, surely Genshin could do it. Surely fucking Star Rail can do it too, which they have done a lot. They have done, but even still, we still have a whole bunch of silent character moments from the Trailblazer, and they're not speaking at all. They're just letting dialogue box happen. And the same thing happened for Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves' main character does not speak without indefinitely. This nigga also has moments where he's not speaking and he'll stop talking, click dialogue box, no voice at all. dialogue box, dialogue box, dialogue box. Then, oh, I'm speaking again, dialogue box. Then I'll speak again after the dialogue box. After I click the dialogue box, and then into the next sentence, then I'll speak again. And it's just like, why can't you just let these niggas just speak indefinitely? Why are we playing this game of, oh, speak, don't speak, don't speak? It's fucking annoying. Just let these niggas speak.
Build their own narratives around. Because not only is this one of the primary causes of disinterest with the Traveler, but a character like the Traveler being silent also has become the one consistent attribute that many other gacha games have copied for their own main protagonist. It's a design choice that keeps getting repeated across the entire genre. And really, this becomes a serious problem when you place a silenced protagonist inside the world where conversation is key, where character interaction isn't just a large portion of the storytelling and the lore, but is actually the most important factor in how much we enjoy the overall experience of any gacha game. But even with all these things, even with all these flaws that we would naturally associate with the main protagonist of a game like this, we also have to acknowledge that it has been years since Genshin Impact's release.
I'm gonna say this too. Gravity Rush's main character doesn't really speak, right? We do have these moments of like certain like cutscenes or certain unique like picture cutscenes, illustrations, where Gravity Rush's main character, Kat, does speak, and she's speaking in passing, right? But outside of that, when there's other moments from like cutscenes or if it's a dialogue moment, she doesn't speak at all, right? So it's like, again, this is not something unique to Genshin. Genshin didn't start this at all. It's been a thing in the gacha space way before Genshin came out, and it's been a thing outside of the gacha space before Genshin was even made.
With the main protagonist of a game like this. We also have to acknowledge that it has been years since Genshin Impact's released. I mean, we're going into the 6th anniversary of Genshin Impact, which is more than enough time for not just Genshin itself to evolve, but also for other gacha games to notice these flaws within Genshin's blueprint and begin forming their own identity. So the big question is, even with all these flaws that we have come to associate with so many gacha protagonists, has there actually been any growth? Has there been any meaningful evolution? Is there any particular protagonist right now that we can look at as a new standard, a new blueprint for what we should expect from gacha protagonists going forward?
There's no way he's sitting here saying that the Rover is the one that set the new standard, because that's the title of this video. Literally, I would put Zenless Zone Zero's main protagonist over the Rover in solving this issue, because the siblings in Zenless speak more without a shadow of a doubt in every dialogue that they are in. When it comes down to the main story content or even limited time event content, these niggas are talking all the time. It's no way we're putting the Rover in the spot, being like, oh, the Rover solved the issue. No, nigga.
Well, the answer is yes. And we don't have to look much further than what we've seen very recently in Wuthering Waves. And this is especially interesting.
I freaking know it. He's literally, this is how, oh, already slapping this to the floor. No, the Rover didn't solve this. Zenless did. Zenless Zone Zero's main character speaks indefinitely across the entire game. Of course, are these like certain moments where it's like it's not an audible dialogue scene between characters, and there's just like two models standing next to each other, having the black box and dialogue on it, speaking back and forth? Yeah, sure. But even in certain moments like those, they've even switched it up to be like, oh, the audio is going on with characters talking, but there's no black dialogue box. It's literally just the words on the screen. They recently just did that for version 2.6 story. They recently just did that, and I really loved how it was done. It was really good. And they've been doing that throughout version 2, actually. To sit here and say that the Rover is the one that solved this issue is fucking crazy, knowing that Zenless exists. Man, I want to pull up. Hold up. I feel the need to do this, genuinely. Give me a moment as I'm scrolling, because I just want to give an example of this. About right here. But I do know that Saint Tontos is acting even more. Yeah, I've been messing it up. It's like not like scenes like this. If you're looking at the screen right now, scenes like this don't have audioable dialogue. When it's the black box with dialogue in it, this doesn't have any audio in it for characters' voices. You have to read that. Can the voice of right? Even be called singing? Okay, I'm trying to get to the point that I really want to reach, which is right here.
Kai said to me was honestly pretty boring. It kept assuming all intelligent constructs dream of ruling New Eridu, and kept going on with weird stuff like, "You're superior to humans, and you deserve more." It even said, if you want to see everyone's emotions, you can just use firepower to make it happen. I mean, who would even do something like that?
A radical. Here we go. Right? Here we go. You see this on screen? If you're not looking at the screen, look at it right now so you can see what I'm talking about. Right? Here, dialogue box. Usually, when it comes down to Genshin, Star Rail, and Wuwa, the main character will not speak out, won't voice out the dialogue that you click next. Usually, they don't do that. Usually, it's every other dialogue that they will do that. But for the most part, they don't do that. Right? Zenless Zone Zero's main character does. Peep game. Extremist.
Yeah, those talking points do absolutely nothing for you. But with the way things are going lately, maybe some people really will start buying into the intelligent constructs are a threat narrative again.
Right. The rogue intelligent construct incident Severian mentioned. If the narrative gets twisted too heavily... No. Yokai is already doing that. Like using photos...
Mind you, Bell and Wise are the main characters of Zenless Zone Zero. You hear both of them talk all the time.
From the Hollow to ruin Arya's reputation.
I know exactly what the reference is.
If Yokai's Gilded Carrot Day surprise is really going to be some speech pushing the idea that intelligent constructs are dangerous, would just bringing up those old malfunction cases really be enough to make people suspicious again? I mean, those cases are already basically solved, right?
Second dialogue box. Peep game, watch. Damn, you up early? Yeah, I gotta finish this story. I gotta stream Wuwa tonight. So I gotta get this done. I should have got this all done on like Saturday, or at least Friday and Saturday, but like your boy was getting tuckered out on fast, so I was like, nah.
Maybe it's not even a threat. For example, Yokai has already demonstrated that it can control intelligent constructs' logic cores at will.
Okay, that's the example I wanted to show to you. The main character of Zenless Zone Zero, or main characters of Zenless Zone Zero, literally speak all the time. They're always talking. We can always hear their voice, right? Zenless broke the mold for that when it comes down to the main character of a gacha game, in my opinion. Not Withering Waves. It's literally the most unique thing about Zenless that stands out. Even though if Zenless doesn't have the same level of popularity as Genshin does, right? This was one of the main reasons I started playing this game and why I fell in love with the main characters of Zenless Zone Zero. It's because we get to hear them speak. We get to see their personality expressed via audio and not just body language. Anyway, let's proceed.
Interesting to talk about, because what you'd come to realize is that this growth is very recent when it comes to the main character in Withering Waves, the Rover. In fact, just a couple of months ago, I would have said the exact opposite, and I actually did. Many players would consider the Rover an extremely interesting character. But you see, the reason I still believe the Rover is not always interesting is because, well, these are isolated moments. We rarely see situations where the Rover's decisions genuinely subvert expectations, like they did in the Looper story. And with the exception of the Fullover incident, I don't think we've ever seen a situation where the Rover was a blatant hypocrite, or even disagreed with the character in a way that would have made the interaction more compelling. But with this protagonist, other than the fact that, like I said earlier, there is an improvement with the strength.
Wait. Wasn't we talking about a protagonist being silent earlier? What does what you just showed have anything to do with the protagonist being silent? That was the main point you was pushing the first time, right? And then you went into why Withering Waves succeeded in this area. Hold up. Wait a minute.
with the main protagonist of a game like this. We also have to acknowledge that it has been years since Genshin Impact's released. I mean, we're going into the 6th anniversary of Genshin Impact, which is more than enough time for not just Genshin itself to evolve, but also for other gacha games to notice these flaws within Genshin's blueprint and begin forming their own identity. So
one of the flaws being a silent protagonist, right? That's one of the things that's being perceived as a flaw, that's being argued as a flaw, right? Even I agree with it to a certain extent, or blatantly, rather, right?
The question is, even with all these flaws that we have come to associate with so many gacha protagonists, has there actually been any growth? Has there been any meaningful evolution? Is there any particular protagonist right now that we can look at as a new standard, a new blueprint for what we should expect from gacha protagonists going forward?
Mind you, the 2 points he mentioned, right, Genshin was about the silent protagonist trope and their game and how people, whether or not they will use the main character when it come down to like the meta team comps, right? The first thing we were tackling, or the thing that he was tackling, was about the silent protagonist thing, right? He's tackling it again, and he's making the claim that Withering Waves solved this issue about the whole talking thing. But the example he gives doesn't match that. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Hold on, let me keep going.
Well, the answer is yes. And we don't have to look much further than what we've seen very recently in Withering Waves. And this is especially interesting to talk about because what you'd come to realize is that this growth is very recent when it comes to the main character in Withering Waves, the Rover. In fact, just a couple of months ago, I would have said the exact opposite, and I actually did. Many players would consider the Rover an extremely interesting character. But you see, the reason I still believe the Rover is not always interesting is because, well, these are isolated moments. We rarely see situations where the Rover's decisions genuinely subvert expectations like they did in the Lupa story. And with the exception of the Fullover incident, I don't think we've ever seen a situation where the Rover was a blatant hypocrite.
Okay, you see what I'm saying? This example doesn't have anything to do with the main character being silent or their meta gameplay. Unless we're just talking about the main character being interesting overall, or having something interesting about them that makes them stand out from their hypocritical behavior to their questionable decisions. Because if that's the case, I feel like that's a different conversation. That has nothing to do with them being silent or they're related to their gameplay. That feels more so related to just how they're written, story-wise. I feel like that just goes into a writing conversation, not about them being silent or their gameplay. Again, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I don't feel like this example he's mentioning here connects with what he's talking about here.
Actually did. Many players would consider the Rover an extremely interesting character. But you see, the reason I still believe the Rover is not always interesting is because, well, these are isolated moments. We rarely see situations where the Rover's decisions genuinely subvert expectations like they did in the Lupa story. And with the exception
suffer expectations, I think he meant to say suffer consequences.
Of the Fullover incident, I don't think we've ever seen a situation where the Rover was a blatant hypocrite, or even disagree with the character in a way that would have made the interaction more compelling. But with this protagonist, other than the fact that, like I said earlier, there is an improvement with the strength and excitement of the Rover as a playable character, and the fact that even though the Rover started off as a mostly silent protagonist, it will be a downright light.
What? He started off as a mostly silent protagonist? That's not what I got when I first played the game. When I first played the game, this nigga talked a lot. I saw him talk a lot. An abundance, if you would. It's over time that he started talking less, honestly.
Playable character. And the fact that even though the Rover started off as a mostly silent protagonist, it will be a downright lie to still label them a silent protagonist right now. There's also the fact that with the release of version 3.1, and I'm talking about both.
Wait a minute. Well, if we're playing that game, then the same thing applies to Genshin Impact, no? Genshin Impact stopped. Actually, Genshin Impact kind of stopped having their main character be a silent protagonist once we got into like version 3, technically, because we had a handful of moments where the traveler did speak, especially very story important moments, like when he went to go save Nahida, where she was trapped inside her mind, right? That whole moment was a voice acted moment from the traveler breaking through that barrier and, you know, talking to Nahida, being like, man, you should have been angry years ago, type shit, right? So they were flip-flopping. They were like kind of half and half with the traveler, whether they spoke or not. Right? We had a lot of moments like that. So I don't think Withering Waves kind of like improved on this. I feel like they're just doing what Genshin did too, which is of course fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think they elevated anything because of them doing it the same thing Genshin did. Genshin was doing that from Sumeru to Fontaine to even in Outland, with the whole voice actor shit that was happening, obviously.
Label them is silent protagonists right now. There's also the fact that with the release of version 3.1, and I'm talking,
yeah, I don't think we can label most of these protagonists anymore as silent protagonists, knowing that they have multiple instances of speaking more often than not. Literally, the most recent freaking playthrough I did for Genshin, the Traveler literally has a whole scene of him talking, and it's not just a one-off moment that they spoke. They spoke multiple times.
and I'm talking like to still label them as silent protagonists right now. There's also the fact that with the release of version 3.1, and I'm talking about both stories here, both the Ameth story and the Luke story, we have started to see a significantly different side of the Rover. And honestly, with all the conversation we've had surrounding these stories, it genuinely surprises me how little the discussion has been focused on this change within the main character. Because this is a change that I truly believe could serve as a new standard for Gacha main protagonists. Not just for the Gacha.
What exactly is that change? What's exactly the change? Their relationship with playable characters? Because that's the only real change that has happened. Ameth is that change with Ameth was because it wasn't some, oh, we're pushing a wifey onto the Rover, here go another one. It was, oh, this was the person that Rover partially raised, right? So this is more so daughter, mother, daughter, father type relationship instead of, you know, oh, what's my next wifey relationship, right? Luke, I haven't done the Luke story, so I can't really speak on that. So I don't really know how exactly their relationship is formed or how it's presented, which is why I'm going to play it tonight and see.
Surrounding these stories, it genuinely surprises me how little the discussion has been focused on this change within the main character. Because this is a change that I truly believe could serve as a new standard for Gacha main protagonists. Not just for the Gacha that already exist right now, but even for the ones that we are going to get in the future. Because see, as I mentioned earlier, up until very recently, what Wooden Ways mainly pushed forward with the Rover was their relevance to the plot and their strength. I mean, with very few
You don't think the same thing happens for Zenless, for Star Rail, for Genshin? Do you think that doesn't happen for their games either? Like what? What are we talking about?
What Wooden Ways mainly pushed forward with the Rover was their relevance to the plot and their strength. I mean, with
Hold on, let me bring this up. Just to hammer this home more about what I'm talking about. Let me go to the most recent Genshin stream I did literally last night. Because there was a dialogue moment that happened that basically was like, if the Traveler was not here when this shit went down, shit would have hit the fan. It's a necessity that the Traveler was here for all this. I think it was around right here. Right? Knowing that if the Traveler wasn't here, shit would have really gone horribly. It feels like, doesn't it feel intentional that the Traveler was dropped off literally in the story right before, you know, shit hit the fan? Hold up, let me go back. Not Star Rail, I'm gonna say Wuwa, the Luke story. I want to play that because I've been hearing it's good apparently, so I want to play that. And then probably we'll have next week. So I'm Gacha streams.
When designing this experience, we cut out the part where the Traveler cleanses the abyssal power, and we didn't think to replace it with a different sequence of events. I think what we're witnessing is a direct result of that. Alice and I thought the events in the bubble would be independent from each other. But since the magic is contained in one place, it appears a casual link has formed between all the events within it. And so, because Dvalin was never purified, we've encountered a major bug.
I knew it. So, what we're witnessing now is like an alternate version of events where the honorary knight never appeared in Mondstadt.
Boom, right there. Mind you, this is referring to the prologue chapter of Genshin Impact when you first start the game, right? They literally admit that if the traveler was not here with their unique ability to purify the abyss and cleanse it from Durin would have had to been sealed. Even later, they mentioned that Venti would have been wounded fighting Dvalin, a more abyss corrupted Dvalin who broke free from the seal, right? He would have been, crushed. Mondstadt would have been wiped out. It would have been a whole fucking mess. And then there was no way to save Dvalin if that happened, right? In this alternate version of events, Dvalin would have to, if we did try to purify Dvalin, right? Dvalin would literally just die. And Venti didn't want to kill his friend, right? Basically. So, again, this speaks to the importance of the traveler's existence. They even mention in this same event, right? If you go do it now, you still have time to do it. They even mention in the same event, if the traveler had not done what they did, helping Natlan with their abyssal problem, along with helping Nodcry with his abyssal problem, both abyss threats in both Natlan and Nodcry would have come across each other, teamed up with each other, and gang banged the crap out of Mondstadt. Because that's the reason, this nigga Varka left Mondstadt to go to Nodcry to deal with the abyssal problem, right? Because he foresaw that it would come to Mondstadt if he chose to stay in Mondstadt and just fight Dvalin, right? It was a sequence of events that needed to happen. Varka needed to leave to deal with the threat in Nodcry when it came down to the Wild Hunt. The Traveler was the one who had to play the role of hero in the story to stop Dvalin, purify him, save his life, and then simultaneously deal with the threat in Natlan, Gazroitoth, to prevent, Gazroitoth and the Wild Hunt from teaming up to then gangbang Mondstadt. It was a necessity. This speaks to the Traveler's story importance, because without him, literally shit would hit the fan. Even Venti mentions that, yeah, we probably would have handled what happened without the Traveler being here. Yeah, sure. But it wouldn't have been like the grand solution. If anything, it would be like a band-aid solution for like the there and then. But like it wouldn't really solve the core issue, which is the abyss corruption. That's the core issue. The Traveler literally is the only entity that could cleanse the abyss by soaking that shit up like a sponge. Anyway. Back to the video.
Very recently, what Wooden Ways mainly pushed forward with the Rover was their relevance to the plot and their strength. I mean, with very few exceptions, these two things were always the primary source of hype and conversation whenever we talked about the Rover as a character. Put simply, the Rover for the longest time felt like the standard Gacha MC, doing the things that we had come to expect from any Gacha main character. But going into these two stories that we just received, we certainly see the narrative adopt something that, although extremely basic, is absolutely pivotal when it comes to how interesting a character can feel in any medium. And that is a wide, expressive range of emotion. And this is where things get really interesting, because throughout the entire 3.1 story, especially when it comes to actually showcasing this emotion, Wooden Way did something genuinely ingenious. You see, they took another classic Gacha protagonist trope, the amnesic protagonist, the protagonist with no memories, and completely flipped it on its head. Because more than any other emotion, the primary emotion they chose to highlight in the 3.1 story were the ones that come with a sense of betrayal. Put more specifically, a betrayal that the present Rover feels towards their own past self, a guilt that directly stems from the amnesia itself, and that is incredibly awesome.
I mean, that's cool. That's unique to the Rover, but trying to paint it as like, oh, it's across the entire Gacha space is kind of overblowing it. Sorry. I'm just not going to have that reaction. Knowing that I saw a similar reaction from the Traveler when he realized that this entity that he thought was his sister wasn't his sister. This nigga also had a look of betrayal on his face when he noticed that. He pulled his sword out. He even has a whole dialogue scene being like, bro, I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe that you were actually who I thought you were, but you're not my sister. Right? Because for the longest time, he's been trying to reunite with his sister. He's been wanting to spend time with his sister. It's the core aspect of the Traveler's character. Them being lonely. They have literally, it's even mentioned in version 3 with the interlude chapter that was dedicated to Scaramouche. Nahida literally says the line of, since me and you connected with each other on a mental level, thanks to the amount of times I've like swapped places with you or inhabited your mind, I've seen the depths of your heart, and I see that you have a hole in your heart that longs to reunite with your sibling, with the person you've missed for so long, right? And that core aspect of the Traveler has been touched on multiple times throughout the game. From version 1, it was mentioned also in version 3. Version 4, not so much, if I remember correctly. Then it touched on, I'm pretty sure it was touched on in version 5, yeah. Then it touched on again in version 6. So it's like, this whole thing related to the Traveler's loneliness has been touched on all the time throughout the game's history. But no one really talked about it because they think the Traveler, my bad if I misspoke earlier, but yeah, people think the Traveler is an uninteresting character with nothing interesting going on when they blatantly do.
His head. Because more than any other emotion, the primary emotion they chose to highlight in the 3.1 story were the ones that come with a sense of betrayal. But more specifically, a betrayal that the present Rover feels towards their own past self, a guilt that directly stems from the amnesia itself, and that is incredibly awesome. I mean, take the Ameth story for example. Yes, we can understand that there were many emotional moments within that story, but among all of them, there was one scene in particular that perfectly showed how they flipped that amnesia protagonist trope on its head. I'm talking about the moments when the present Rover, for the first time, saw the past Rover's relationship with Ameth. And just to really show what I mean, I'm going to play that scene, and as you watch it, I don't just want you to look at what is happening on the surface. I want you to pay attention to the subtext, the facial expressions, the small details. I want you to imagine what every single person in that interaction is actually feeling as it unfolds. Alright, here it is.
Ameth, have you been out terrorizing those snowfluff seals again? They scatter the moment they see you. Have you finished your lessons? You start school soon. Maybe spend less time gaming, hmm?
You see, more than anything else,
I'm sorry, but that did not come off as betrayal or feeling betrayed thanks to his past action. That doesn't come across off like that. I don't know why you interpreted it that way. Interesting that you did, but that's not the interpretation I got. The interpretation I got was, oh, wait a minute. Was this what Ameth was hiding from me? That I know who we met before? This is what she was hiding from me? Because that's the type of reaction Rover gave. He was shocked. He or she was shocked when they saw this. Right? Because they had no idea. So, anything, this doesn't seem like a betrayal or feeling betrayed or a betrayal and guilt stemming from that betrayal thanks to their past self's action. This just seems like they're in shock and they're finding this out for the first time as their new self. Like, I feel like there were better scenes that use that, like, conveyed what you were talking about. Like, let's say this. Which scene I'm thinking of? The scene where Rover is talking with Ameth and Rover knows that they're going to be gone for a long time and may never come back to La Hyrule, thanks to their, memories getting wiped or whatever. Like, that conversation felt more so like, I don't even know if the Rover even saw that flashback. I can't remember entirely. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But if the Rover did see that flashback and they did express like an expression of, man, I feel like I did her dirty because of my past action, then yeah, sure, without a shot of doubt, that would have been a better scene to use, not this one. I don't think this one is a good scene to use for that. Cause this does not look like guilt. This is like, wow, I can't believe it. Me and her know each other. That's the expression I got throughout this whole thing, this scene in particular.
you see, more than anything else, I believe that this might be the most important moment when it comes to the Rover's characterization. Because this scene, more than anywhere else, truly showcases that sense of betrayal that the Rover feels. The idea of abandonment, the realization that by willingly erasing their own memories, they abandoned people they were supposed to be there for. And
yeah, I'm gonna say this. This scene is not, in my opinion, the scene to use to convey this point that you're making. In my opinion, I don't think this scene is the good one. Because honestly, the Rover wasn't even thinking about that. Honestly, let's be honest. The Rover wasn't even thinking about that before this moment happened. Of, oh man, the people I betrayed in the past. Like, if they did, I'm pretty sure the story would have, inputted, Furlova and mentioned Furlova. Possibly. Or Shorekeeper. Right? Or, Camellia. Another person who also knows the Rover from 20 years ago. Right? But the story doesn't flash back to those three characters at all to then convey the point that you're trying to make here. If it did, I would believe this point without a shot of a doubt. But that's not what happened in the story.
More than anywhere else, truly showcases that sense of betrayal that the rover feels. The idea of abandonment, the realization that by willingly erasing their own memories, they abandoned people they were supposed to be there for. And the beauty of how this emotion was...
Yeah, that's not what happens in the scene. Yeah, that's not what happens in the scene. Again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong and explicitly tell me what happened in the scene in detail. Actually, should I even bother pulling up the scene? I did know I paused a lot throughout this moment in the story. I did pause a lot. But that's not what I got from this scene. I know this is a lengthy ass reaction. This is probably about an hour-long reaction at this point. Forgive me for that. But, you know, some of y'all are here for that anyway. Like, the rover doesn't even mention in passing about them erasing their own memories for the, you know, they don't even mention the fact that they have done that. The Hyrule story, part 1, part 2, part 3. What was part 2? Trying to remember. Pretty sure. I think I ended part 2 playthrough at her house. Yep. Okay, so it's in part 2. Somewhere around here. There's even a cutscene here as well on top of that.
And now...
Okay, let me go back a little bit. Just give it a moment. It's loading.
You know, I was joking.
Oh no, let me skip that. Cause I said something pretty fucking wild here. I ain't about to let y'all hear that. Go watch the playthrough if you want to hear what I said.
That was what they were trying to like convey up to.
Because the rover
Everything up to this moment has not felt like big sister or little sister to me at all.
Anyway, another thing too, the rover's expression throughout this whole thing isn't like sadness really. Up until like I guess when they conversate with thing again, with Ameth again.
I got Ameth now? Awesome.
Nuh-uh! They love playing with me. Why else would they crawl over and play before running away?
Dang, my back hurt.
And my lessons... You promised me another level of split stars. No takebacks. But I want to learn how you folded that thing first. Can you show me? Pretty please?
So adorable. Honestly, I feel like people only start... this is just my POV, right? But I feel like...
Trying to show the rover's expression on their face.
This moment.
Because throughout the entire thing, they didn't feel sad or guilt.
And like,
honestly.
Interesting.
It wasn't until they started talking to Ameth again that they even felt like they were expressing any guilt.
Sit here and justify. Please no. Holy shit. My food about to be here. BRB.
Hold up. Give me a second. Skip forward.
Always nosedived right away. But yours flew so far. How?
Hold up. Alright.
Well, of course, there's a trick to it. I'll teach you. But first, you finish your lesson.
If anything, it was more so sadness than guilt for this moment. Because, one, Ameth admits to us way before this moment, I believe, that she died, you know, sacrificing her life to try to become the resonator for the Exo Strider. So we did know that way before this moment. And so when the rover discovers that, oh, me and her knew each other, then the expression that the rover just showed on their face, that y'all just saw, hopefully y'all saw, they show an expression of like sadness. See, look, let's see what I'm saying? Look at this. There's like the smile that turns into a sad look, right? As they slightly look away from it, right? It's more so sadness knowing that the person that she knew when they were a child essentially has died and whatnot. And probably thinking to themselves, man, I guess only if I were there, potentially. But again, it didn't feel like they were like expressing guilt. This is just me assuming right now, because I don't remember them expressing guilt in the scene. Actually, maybe if I could keep playing, I'll probably see a little more. Hold on. It was a sad look.
Well, of course. But first, you finish. I promise. Cross my heart.
Okay, hold up. I may have to retract the statement I made earlier about the rover feeling guilt in this moment. I may have to retract it this time. Right? I may have been wrong on this point. So I'm going to admit that now. Because I know someone's going to be like, oh, you're sure, you're not, blah, blah, blah. Fuck all that. I can admit when I'm wrong. Now, after replaying a little bit more of the scene and knowing and remembering now that the rover did make a promise to her, now the feeling of guilt probably started to set in. Well, let me play this a little more just so I can refresh my memory. Because again, it was a while ago when I played this.
I've been wondering how to tell you this. And now... When I was little, it's laughter anymore.
Oh, hold up. I think this led to a cutscene.
About them dissolved in the void storm. Getting them began to fade from my mind to the bone. And I hid in the Starwood Riseway and made my...
Okay. I think I'm gonna come to this conclusion. The rover did feel guilt because of a past action of making a promise. That's probably what they felt guilt about. Not more so about the fact that they erased their memories is the reason why they feel guilt. I feel like it's more so on the basis of, oh, I made a promise and I didn't keep my promise apparently. Right? That felt like that's where the guilt is coming from. More so than, oh man, I erased my memories and now I'm feeling guilt for doing that because now I broke a promise. Anyway. Back to the video again, and I'm saying this right now. I still don't believe that this what makes the rover better than every other Gacha character or Gacha MC in particular. I don't believe that. It makes them unique as the MC for their game in particular, without a shadow of a doubt. But again, feeling guilt for an action that they made that resulted in someone else having, feeling pain. It's not really, unique to the rover in particular. I'm pretty sure we've had other characters that felt the same way. Or something similar to this.
willingly erasing their own memories, they abandoned people they were supposed to be there for. And the beauty of how this emotion was portrayed lies in the complete silence of the protagonist. I mean, the game did a phenomenal job using facial expression, body language, and every other visual cue the rover had but their voice to convey that dread, that sinking feeling, the sadness, the anger, and most importantly, like I mentioned before, the feeling of betrayal directed at their own past self. All of this communicated through one simple scene. But the game does not stop there, not at all, because when we leave the Ameth story and transition into the Luke story, we actually see a continuation of this emotion.
Crap.
And even the
Spoils.
addition of more, a lot more, because within this story, beyond just that sense of betrayal the Rover felt towards themselves, we begin to see one of the most, if not the single most human emotion anyone can possibly possess: anxiety.
Luke,
Ah,
your
shit.
chances of saving Ameth, they're pretty slim, aren't they?
They are. You'll need a
Ah,
miracle,
shit.
but you've always been good at making those happen.
And what I think many people don't fully realize is just how much weight this single emotion adds to the entire situation within the story. Because for the first time in any gacha game, within the Luke story, I genuinely found myself wondering if he would actually win, or at the very least,
Having the feeling of anxiety is what makes Rover unique in comparison to other gacha MCs. Again, I don't feel like I don't think I can agree with this take either. Since that's the take he's making, if that's the take he's making. Because again, I played multiple gacha games, and I even played non-gacha games as well. Also, the scene that was shown, that didn't feel like anxiety to me. That felt more so of like having doubts that it would work. Hold up, let me do some Google searching of definitions. You feel me? Just to help your boy out, cause just so I can convey my point better. All right. Okay, anxiety. Excessive, uncontrollable worry and fear that interferes with daily life. I don't know if this scene in particular truly conveys anxiety, because Rover has rarely ever shown anxiety. I feel like this is a one-off moment. This feels more like doubt than anxiety, or self-doubt, rather. Common symptoms for, anxiety: racing heart, trembling, fatigue, dizziness, headaches, stomach distress. Often impact on daily life. How it looks leads to avoidance behavior, avoiding triggers like social situations or work, trouble sleeping, difficulty with relationships, which can limit opportunities, which the Rover hasn't really shown, having difficulty forming relationships and, creating opportunities, because this nigga has been, on the board with everybody they met, even after learning about the whole thing with Philova, right? Still, they've been making relationships, one nigga after the other. Okay, causes and triggers. Causes include genetics, which has a 30 to 40% influence, trauma, and life stressors like financial issues or work pressure. Honestly, if we were talking about Rover, who before they had their mind right, who came to this planet to do a job that they were sent to do, I think I would agree with this point even more. But knowing that that's not the case, I don't really believe that this is a case of Rover showing anxiety. Now, could they have been still worried about it even after them still thinking about it excessively? Because when I play this quest, hopefully when I do play this quest, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, when I play this quest, I hope to see multiple instances of the Rover showing anxiety, thinking about Ameth over and over and over again throughout the entire Luke story, having that be their sole priority, right? I hope that is the case. If it's not the case, then this point is a one-off moment in the entire Luke story, or Luke portion of the story. Again, I need to wait and see this for myself and fully to truly believe that this is an anxiety.
in any gacha game. Within the Luke story, I genuinely found myself wondering if we would actually win, or at the very least, if our victory would be smooth. I found myself asking what sacrifices would be necessary to secure that victory. What exactly we would have to give up to make sure everything turns out well. That is what this single emotion does. It puts everything we're going through in this story into a completely different perspective. I mean, if I had any doubts before, at this point, I fully understand just how much of a disadvantage we're at heading into the coming battle. I understand exactly how powerful the enemy we're about to face truly is. And most importantly, I understand that the Rover themselves is scared, riddled with anxiety, and even weighed down by everything that has already happened and everything that is still yet to come. And all of this is absolutely phenomenal, not just in terms of storytelling, but especially when we're talking about a main protagonist in a gacha game. And I genuinely believe that
I'm gonna say this right now. To sit here, I'm gonna say this now because this is a little disingenuous on his part to paint this as, oh man, this is solely exclusive to the Rover, that they got all this weight on their shoulder, they feel all this anxiety, da da da. We've literally seen this from Genshin's protagonist and from even Star Rail's protagonist of feeling anxiety. Literally, when it came down to Firefly, right? The Rover, the Trailblazer, my bad, experienced anxiety for her health. Literally, nigga was like, bro, I can't believe this. I didn't want this outcome for you, type ish. I tried to save you best as possible could. Right? That happened in the 3.8 story where we got a recontextualization of the Pentacone story. Right? When it came down to the Traveler, they expressed anxiety when it came down to like them trying to reunite with their sibling, multiple instances, or feeling this weight on their shoulder. Shoot, there was a moment of constant anxiety and worry from the Traveler when it came down to like version 3, where we were trapped in the time loop thing, right? In Sumeru's Archon Quest. There was a moment where the Traveler was getting hit with all this pressure, being trapped in this damn time loop and trying to figure out a way to break out of it. Niggas just lashed out on some mob enemies, told Dia to go kick rocks and get out of here. He mopped them up, and then Paimon comments on it being like, bro, did you just let your anger out on them? Right? Because he's worried about Dunyarzad. He's worried about, in particular, he's worried about Dunyarzad the most, because she literally will die if they don't break out of this damn thing. So you can know the pressure that's on his shoulders to try to break out of the dream loop shit so that Dunyarzad can be saved. Right? Prime example of that. Now, Arknight's infield main character, I haven't really seen anxiety or ultra worry from them just yet. I'm still playing through the story, by the way.
Not just in terms of storytelling, but especially when we're talking about a main protagonist in a gacha game. And I genuinely believe that going forward, this should be the standard. This should be what gacha games in general should aim for. Whether it's Arknight's Enfield, Neverness to Everness, Ananta, Silver Palace, all of these games that still have time to properly work on their protagonists, this is the kind of emotional depth they should be striving for. Because right now, it would not be a stretch to say that the Rover is possibly the one gacha protagonist with the most depth in the entire gacha space.
That's crazy to say. That's a bold claim. Genuinely.
Among any other gacha protagonists we currently have. I mean, yes, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the growth we have seen within Genshin Impact's protagonist, the Traveler. I mean, there has clearly been developments in how the Traveler is portrayed. There's been noticeable growth in their presence and characterization. But the problem that will likely always plague Genshin Impact is the too little too late issue. The fact that no matter what they do right now, it would never feel as satisfying or as impactful as we would have wanted if that growth had been present much earlier. For me personally, no matter how much I try to appreciate it now, that early perception of the Traveler being bland still lingers. But with newer gacha games,
then that's you purposely not wanting to look beyond that and look at it what it is now. That's a you issue. That's not the game's issue. Yes, we can say the too little too late, but we can also say better late than never. That's a point of view to look at it from as well. It's way better to look at it from better late than never than look at it as too little too late. Because if you're looking at it from the too little too late, you're purposely not willing to give it its just due flowers for doing the thing people wanted it to do. Let's be so fucking for real right now. That's a you issue. That's not the game issue. Now, it does stem from the game, but again, it's a you issue when you're not trying to, acknowledge what the fuck is doing, and you're purposely keep looking back at, why did they do it earlier? They're doing it now, aren't they? Okay then. So let's set the past stuff to the side and focus on the now. It's good they're doing it now. Let's proceed. It's like this stubbornness to keep looking back at the past instead of look at the fucking future. It's so fucking irritating. And I extend that beyond just gacha games. I extend that shit to real life too. Right? It's like, ugh. To just give a brief example, right? The amount of times I keep hearing people be like, especially niggas who look like me, obviously, keep talking about slavery that happened. But these are the same niggas who never experienced slavery a day in their life. And they keep harping back on the past, being like, oh, this, that, and the third, and acting like, oh, niggas of today don't have the opportunity, don't have the ability to become great in the here and now. Like I didn't grow up throughout 2000 all the way till fucking now seeing black greatness. But niggas want to say and act like black greatness doesn't exist, and we still trying to fight for it. And it's like, no, it already exists. Y'all niggas just acting like it never existed to begin with. The amount of times I've seen black characters in cartoons growing up from early 2000s to now still lingers in my mind. Ooh, my bad. Just had to extend it to real life for a little bit. Anyway, let us proceed.
Games though, they're entering the space with nothing but opportunity. They have the advantage of learning from games that already exist, the games that have sparked both criticism and praise, and they can use all of that as reference to craft protagonists that are far more engaging from the very beginning. And even though I can admit that with Wooden Way setting such a strong recent example, any gacha game that comes after it will have a very high bar to reach. I can also say that
Zenless main character also have experienced anxiety as well when it came down to trying to help Miyabi, Yi Shongguang. We had a handful of moments like that for Zenless main character as well.
We said in such a strong recent example, any gacha game that comes after it will have a very high bar to reach. I can also say that there are no luckier gacha games than the ones releasing after Wooden Ways, because between what Genshin Impact has established and what Wooden Ways is now refining, they have multiple blueprints to study and build from in order to make their own protagonists truly phenomenal. But that is just my take. What are your thoughts on the...
I mean, this take would be valid if Zenless Zone Zero didn't exist, but knowing that Zenless Zone Zero exists, it's kind of like, why aren't we mentioning them in this conversation?
Gacha protagonists we have right now, and what are your expectations for the protagonists we are going to see in future gacha games? Let me know that more in the comments below. And as always,
I don't have any expectation for future gacha protagonists in these upcoming gacha games. I have no expectation for them, right? I'm not going to use what I've seen from Genshin or what I've seen from Wuwa or what I've seen from Zenless as the foundational basis for how I want, or my headcanon expectation to what was going to happen with the main characters of these other gacha games. We literally have to wait and see how they're going to do shit. Our Nice Infield main character, again, another example of like silent protagonist who talks sometimes. Guess what? Following that same trend. Right? Who knows about Ananta's main character? Maybe that nigga will speak all the time. Especially seeing the type of personality they've shown from him, or from them rather, with the promotional trailers. Feels like he may be a nigga that speaks a lot. Who knows? We have to wait and see. Anyway, that's all I got to say for this video. Y'all tell me how y'all feel about this video in the comment section below. Like, sub, turn on the notification bell. Join my YouTube community Discord if you wish. Download the Root app so it's an alternative to the Discord server when Discord, initiates its age verification nonsense that doesn't even work properly. Check out my yapping topics and yapping reaction content as well. Playlists for both sets of videos are on my channel and available to watch at any time. I stream here on YouTube and only on YouTube. I play 5 gacha games and 2 non-gacha games at the moment. Those being Genshin, Star Rail, Zenless, Wuwa, and Our Nice Infield. The 2 non-gachas I play are Gravity Rush Remastered and Fate Semi-Remnant. There will be 2 more games added to the list, being Tales of Berseria and Ninja Gaiden 4, which I have the copy of Ninja Gaiden 4. We'll be streaming it very soon. Anywho, that's all I have to say. Oh, help your boy reach 1,000 subs. I am literally, hold on, let me check. Give me a second. I gotta check, just double check. I swear I said 993. Where I'm at right now. I need to find, hold up. Come on, baby, come on. Where I'm at. Yeah, I'm at 993. Help your boy reach that 1,000. Your boy been working hard to get to that 1,000. And I appreciate everybody who's watched my content as well, who's helped your boy reach up to this point. Because literally, I couldn't have done it without y'all and your viewership. Anyway, this is KallaTheYapper signing out. Peace.